Hello.
Hi,
everybody. We made it, y'all, through the technical difficulties, through the sound. We are here.
Hello, everybody.
Live and living color.
Hey.
My face looks a little reddish because I got one hell of a sunburn last week at work.
Oh, wow.
My lips are all chapped and split and everything else. So
you look good. And Kim, don't get me, but Mikey looks good. He looks fine. He looks
yes, he does. Sunburn and all.
Look, you got one rooster with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hens. Man, I'm living the dream.
Mikey uncensored. Never know what's going to come out of his mouth.
Exactly.
Right. This is a live show. Hey. We keep it real here, so you are at home. You are at home. Cool. So you guys, we are so excited to have you here. We got to share some of our Kim and Mikey stories behind stage because everybody has had an encounter, an intersection, have seen Kim and Mikey videos. So we thank you so much for thinking about the Little Old Glass Table podcast today and coming and joining us. So why don't you a lot of people joining us today may not know your ex-Jehovah Witness story. So can you give us a little bit about how you love? I know your disfellowship story because I've watched I watch your videos, but I don't know if you want to give us like a brief background. Okay, Mikey.
Oh, okay. I guess.
Okay.
Well, see, that's why Kim and I work so good together, because when I start telling an untruth or something that I've put in the wrong timeline of the sequence, she'll correct me. For Kim and I, we've always had issues with elders. Like every male, we always strive to become, ministerial servant, regular pioneer, an elder, and circuit overseer. When I was reaching out to be a ministerial servant, I began to see a lot of politicking in the congregations. And it really began to make me think and question what this organization was truly all about. And I had an opportunity when I was out in service as a regular pioneer with a circuit overseer. And I asked him, what do I need to do to reach out even further to become a circuit overseer? And his reply floored me. You would think the circuit overseer would say, learn everything you can about the Bible, learn all about Jehovah, how to, comfort people and things like this. His answer was, learn everything you can about the organization. And I was like, just dumbfounded, because I didn't expect that at all. That really got my wheels and my mind spinning. And there was a lot of things that I observed.
We had a lot of the puzzle pieces, but we didn't have the picture to put it together until October of 2012.
Yes. And, one of the things that I struggled with being a Jehovah Witness, and especially being a pioneer and a ministerial servant at the time, was the whole concept of the Holy Spirit. I couldn't understand how the Holy Spirit could appoint these men, and then it takes an act of Congress to get them deleted, when I could obviously see that they themselves were not following the direction of the Watchtower Society. So we did a lot of study, a lot of research. Granted, it was all within Watchtower literature. And we could see that even in the local congregations, the elders were not following even the directives that, the governing body was placing in the Watchtower magazines. So for a long time, we had questions, and a lot of it had to do with behavioral problems of elders.
The abuse of elders?
Yeah.
Being the victims of a lot of abuse from elders.
Yeah, we were just victims of witch hunt after witch hunt after witch hunt. And it's like, and it was just interesting to watch, because every time body of elders came after us, and me in particular, I'd always have a Watchtower article to kind of like shut them down. So they didn't know what to do with me, because every time we had a problem, here's Mikey with a Watchtower magazine. And if we speak against the Watchtower, then we're speaking against God. No, excuse me. I meant speaking against the organization. So these things weighed heavily on our minds for a long time. And it wasn't until a dear friend, well, in the meantime, we had moved to a different state, saw the same behavioral pattern from local elders. It was just, to say it was a nightmare would be putting it lightly, because my desire is to help people to become more than what they are. And even as JWs, my whole thought process was climbing the corporate ladder and being in a better position to help people. And that was never achieved, obviously. So I ended up inviting a JW friend to come out here and visit us once we moved from Wisconsin to our local place here in New Mexico. And this JW accepted the invitation. Now, I say JW because at the time I didn't know that he was an ex-JW. Yeah. Didn't have a clue. So this dear friend came over. We'd known each other for decades, and I was explaining some of the issues with elders and some of our experiences and things like this.
He even said Jehovah's Witnesses are the most deluded people on the planet.
Yeah.
As a JW, he's saying this.
Yeah, I even said that. And so he took that as an opening to utter the next words. And his next words would floor anybody. He says, well, you know, I actually believe that Jesus died on a cross and not on a stake. And I said, what?
But we knew this guy since 1986 and his whole family, and spent a lot of time with the whole family. So, you know, we weren't going to kick him out of our house.
No, I just wasn't going to do that. But I have a lot of respect for this person. So I thought, well, let me hear what you have to say at least, because there again, I was already having problems with elders and things like this. So I'll at least give him the benefit of the doubt. He said, go get your reasoning book and look at that quotation under the cross that is taken from the Imperial Bible Dictionary. So I got it. Then I read it. He says, now, you ever wondered what those dots were? The ellipsis. And it's like, well, not really. So he suggested go online, go to openlibrary.org and get the entire quote from the Imperial Bible Dictionary. And that was the puzzle piece. That put it all together right there, because I saw for the first time that Watchtower manufactured a lie.
Right that minute, right in front of him and Mikey.
Yeah.
Mikey and I looked at one another and said, you know, we're going to get disfellowship for this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just that instant.
Because see, at that point, you know, with the problems we had within the congregation, we knew we weren't going to keep our mouths shut. We just knew that.
We're not that type of people.
No. So, you know, like all of you and like all of the Waking Up JWs today, we took the time to study and research, and we found one manufactured lie after another.
And I was going to say, we were disfellowshipped in. I just wanted to mention how we ended up with a copy of the Imperial Bible Dictionary. When we first started doing videos in October of 2013, someone contacted us and said, can I send you an Imperial Bible Dictionary? And she did. And we've been friends ever since.
Yes. Jane Doe. And I know she's watching, so hello. Yeah, I mean, and now it's like, oh my goodness, I've got a hard copy of that Imperial Bible Dictionary. So from there, you know, we actually shut down our personal business for a year and devoted an entire year to study and research. So even before Kim and I decided to do our first YouTube video, we had already had a year's worth of research underneath our belt, so that when
we never stopped.
Yeah, and we haven't stopped then. And the one thing that Kim and I saw at the time when we was watching ex-Jehovah Witness videos is that we personally did see a lot of anger. We saw a lot of, just a lot of different type of personalities. But the one thing that we did not see was anybody mocking Watchtower. Nobody was mocking the bullshit. So, Kim and I, that's how we pretty much started. You know what?
That's what we're like anyway. So.
Yeah, let's just mock the living crap out of this and see what happens. And here we are today.
7 years later.
Hello.
That's great.
Okay.
I'm in it like.
Can you put it to where we can see all of you?
There we
all
go.
right.
Yeah, I feel like I've been talking
Sorry,
to
guys.
all this time.
No, you're fine. I'm always doing 1,000 things.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So I'm looking at the comments here. Everybody is really excited that you guys are here.
I just love me a good story, so I have been just like listening and nodding along and just enjoying you telling
I'm in laughing in the background.
Right. You guys are right, really.
And I just want to say how great this podcast is. You guys are so professional. I mean, my goodness, there's not that many, glitches or anything. And the way you have this set up is so professional. I mean, this is awesome.
Thank you so much. As you say that we're so professional, I'm taking a drink here. Like,
Well, the whole long and short of it is that once we had this year of research under our belts, I had to go to Arizona for a mountain man rendezvous because that's how we made some of our income. And I decided I was going to have dinner with my mother. And I brought my New World Translation, and I had a few little notes that I had tucked into the leaf side of it. And I thought that I was going to be able to, because I was really, really prepared to do the 607 thing and just show that it was just the wrong dates and Watchtower was wrong.
Bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. So as we're preparing to have dinner, now keep in mind, my mother, before she became a JW, she used to read tarot cards. And she never had any training, she would just make stuff up. And it appeared like it all came true. So it's
that sounds like the governing body.
Yeah, exactly. Right, make stuff up on the fly. And over the years, now that Kim and I reflect back on that, we could see that my mother's behavior pattern would indicate that if you believed in spirits, that she had a demon attached to her. Because like when we would get together as a family and just play regular playing cards, she hated playing regular playing cards. And Kim asked her one day why. And my mother says, well, I can still see patterns in the cards. Now, here's a fully indoctrinated JW woman not wanting to play regular, playing cards because she can still see patterns in the cards. Something should have clicked back then, but it didn't. So anyhow, we sit down for dinner and my mother asked me if I would mind saying a prayer.
Now, mind you, we hadn't said anything to anybody at this point.
No, nobody knew nothing. So I said, well, of course I wouldn't mind. Why would you ask that? And out of the blue, she says, well, I don't know. I don't even know if you pray anymore. And it's like, where in the hell did that come from? Because she had not a clue. So I said, I'd love to say prayer, but you have to understand, I won't use the name Jehovah because I discovered it's a Catholic invented name. And she said, nope, you say your own prayer. And my head went down. And there again, I don't know if anybody believes in spirits, whether it was just my reaction to my mother, I don't know. But for the first time in my life, I could not physically utter a prayer to myself. I mean, I could physically feel a blockage right there at my mother's table. And that indicated to me that there was a serious, serious problem even in my own mother's life.
I think there was an evil presence there because of dealing with her in the past and looking back in the past.
Archon, whatever. And it was at that time that when I got back that I started doing even more in-depth research into the occult, if you will, and some of the things that are connected with that, so I could have a better understanding of what, you know, whether you believe in them or not, the JWs do. And the JWs live on that fear that they're inculcated with regarding the occult and things like that. So don't be afraid to study and research this stuff, because all it does is it just gives you better ammunition to deal with them. And it does help. It really does help. So after that, I'll let you finish the story, because that's when all hell broke loose for us.
So he said he was going to his mountain man thing. Okay, now when he goes to these, there is no internet, there is no phones, there's nothing. It's a bunch of guys out in the middle of nowhere camping and living like they did back in the mid-1800s. All hell broke loose. We got unfriended on Facebook. My daughter was getting emails and phone calls and messages through Facebook of like, well, since you're so close to your parents, we're going to assume you've gone apostate too. And, you know, my daughter Shyla and I are like, what is going on? Because we didn't even know what had happened in Arizona, because he didn't call me and tell me. So apparently we did find out later that his mom immediately started calling everybody, even her elders. And it's funny because he had had dinner with a JW friend of ours in Cottonwood the night before. And that poor guy got accused of being the apostate and talking to him. And so they went on a witch hunt after that poor guy. And he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, because I hadn't said anything to him, because I didn't know how he was going to react to me, you know, knowing what I knew at that time. So it's like, no, this is just a dinner between longtime friends. And that's all it was. But boy, my mother, she took that and she just drove it right into the ground.
Yeah. So all of us were immediately marked as apostates. Nobody even asked us. Nobody even asked me what I believed or anything, just automatic. My daughter and everybody just, I mean, it was just unbelievable how fast. You think the COVID is spreading fast. Yeah. This spread fast.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the long and the short of it. You know, after I get back here, we kind of like, well, let's just do some YouTube videos. You know, now that my mother is trying to, you know, get us disfellowshipped and all that stuff, I've got nothing to lose now.
Wow.
So we just went full board, and they disfellowshipped us on September 18th, which was a few days after our wedding anniversary. And it's interesting because we got a certified letter from him, and he was going deer hunting. He says, there's no way, you know, I can be in town. And I didn't want to go by myself. So we contacted our elders and said, look, he's going to be out of town. And they sent us a letter and said, well, we can appreciate that everybody's busy, but this is the date of your hearing. And it was, I think, on the 18th, like a week later. So they only moved it a week later. He was going to be gone till after October 1st. So we actually had a lawyer send Watchtower and our body of elders a cease and desist for harassment, because here in the state of New Mexico, anything they do like that is against the law.
Wow.
And so, you know, we got the letter back, and JW Struggle YouTube channel, he covered all of that. You know, the name of the videos, how to disfellowship two people with zero proof, because it was all done on hearsay. The elders showed up here when I was home alone and he was at work, and they started questioning me.
Wow. See, they wrong for that.
Yeah. And I have to back up a little bit. In May, they showed up unannounced and questioned us. And they asked, you know, well, why would you show your brother? Because he had showed his brother some subliminal images when he was in Arizona. His brother is not a witness, but his brother told the mom. So they got back to the elders and they're like, well, why would you use the literature in a negative way? And he says, look, I'm not the one that put the, in the literature.
Right.
He's not the one who was on the songbook. So
yeah, I didn't do that either.
Right.
So, we went through this whole thing. And so since we didn't show up for our judicial hearing, it was all done on hearsay. And so we were disfellowshipped and we were tickled pink. We just started doing videos.
Well, what was interesting, just at the very end there, the elders that called the house wanting me to get into a 3-way conversation with them. And so I picked up the phone and they just started, talking their normal nonsense that they were going to talk. And I says, well, just hold on right there, guys. I says, since you came into my house and you had a spiritual conversation with my wife
and questioned me
and questioned her without my knowledge and without my being there, you brothers usurped my headship. This conversation is over. And I hung the phone up on him.
Well, that's how that goes when you're married. I mean, my husband, we didn't have it to the degree that you guys, but we had a very similar situation, and they will overstep. This is the rule that they put in place because talking to me is, you can talk to me if you want to, but since they are insistent that things are supposed to go a certain way, then you have to hold them accountable to their own rules as to how, a woman is supposed to be spoken to in the home, whether in the presence of her husband or not.
Yeah. And I didn't give him anything. I just said, look, this is hearsay. Why don't you go after his mother for slander? Because I said, we're being shunned and we've done nothing.
We've done nothing wrong.
So that's all I kept saying. And they finally got tired of that after about half an hour. But you mentioned the rules. And I just wanted to mention real quick that the unreluctant ExJW just did a tweet this morning about the Elders Manual here, a quote from it in the introduction, point 4, about halfway down that point. It says, rather than making rigid rules for the congregation, rely on scriptural principles and direction from Jehovah's organization. So how can they disfellowship and go after us on a witch hunt on hearsay and then disfellowship us without even hearing what we have to say?
Well, not only that, how did they do that when they say, well, we don't make rigid rules? See, that the whole problem with this elders book is that the elders are told one thing and then they apply it differently to the rank and file.
Right.
And that's why they had a little bit of a problem with me, even though I did not have an elders book because my dad was an elder. I was aware that book existed. Now, what my dad had told me about the book was that, well, there's nothing in this book that's not in the magazines. They just made it more convenient to find it. So knowing what my dad had told me, being that elder, I knew that if I had any problems with elders, I better be looking at these books because that's where the answer is going to be. And that's been Kim and I's, life, or that's what saved us multiple times, when I had these issues with elders. So I knew the book existed, but because my dad, and I don't want to, assign anything negative to my dad, because my dad, he wasn't an elder, but maybe 6, 7, 8 months before he finally passed due to lung cancer. So he wasn't an elder all that. And in fact, he was actually an elder in training, even up until the point where he passed. So he didn't have years and decades of listening to the bullshit and trying to cover up the bullshit either.
Right.
And since he was a lot like Mike's a lot like his dad, I always tell him, I think your dad would have woken up. I honestly, if he would have had to have been on one of these child abuse cases, I think his dad would have said, whoa, guys. And I think his dad would have called the authorities. I really do.
Well, I'll give you guys an example here. Through the grapevine, I have heard that there was an incident in one of our previous congregations that a male, JW, committed adultery. And the adultery was confessed to the presiding overseer, and the presiding overseer said that he would take care of it. And years later, the issue came up, and I shouldn't say years later, but within a few months, the issue came up in front of my dad. And my dad said, wait, what? How come the rest of the body wasn't told of this? So my dad held that body of elders to their feet regarding hiding from the rest of the body an incident of marital infidelity. So that's why I strongly suspect that if my dad was fully aware of the child abuse that Watchtower was hiding, I think my dad would have woken up and probably been in the same position that I am now.
I noticed Karen here in the comments. She said that she is a medium and had a near-death experience while she was a witness, and she thought it was demon possession. And that's the thing, is JWs think this is evil, that it's all bad. But when you leave, you find out, just like people, there's good and there's bad. Just like these spirits, there's good and there's bad. And ever since leaving, I've looked and investigated a lot of this. But I do know, just being around his mom, I do feel an evil presence.
So do I. So do I.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do know there is good, and it's all about energy and frequency and tapping into the universe. And I know I don't go a lot into our videos, but I am a firm believer in what you're putting out into the universe. That is what you're going to get back.
Well, you'll probably have a few people disagree with this, and you'll have probably a lot of people agree with it. But if you're ever having a really bad day, just when, the world seems to come crashing down around you, one of the best things you can do is take off your shoes and go for a walk in the grass, on the ground. And because we are allegedly made from this earth, we have a connection to it. And whether you like the phrase or not, don't really care. Mother Earth will take care of us. And one of the things that you need to do when you're feeling, I don't know the word I'm looking, disjointed
stressed out,
is to connect yourself to the earth and release all of that negative energy, because there is positive and negative energy. If you don't believe me, get 2 magnets and you'll see that you have opposite poles pushing and or attracting. So there is that energy there. And we have a certain amount of energy built within us. So when you're feeling stressed and you need to let it all out, take your shoes off and walk barefooted. Maybe do some gardening, get your hands in that dirt, and you'll find that negative energy does release.
Well, in fact, we were just watching a video this morning while we were eating breakfast, and there is a neuro specialist. And, they've always showed like the sensors where they put like this cap on people's brains with all these wires and stuff, and they can like map your brain and your electrical signals and stuff. Now they have a new apparatus. I forget what it's called. It's magnetic something. They don't even have to put these near your head. They can put it out here. And he says, this proves that our thoughts, our energy, these electrical pulses do not stay in our head. They are released out. So what does that tell us? We're just antennas.
That's crazy.
So enough about us. I'm sure you didn't expect us to do as much talking as we're doing here. So
you are fine. We are so happy to have you and Stacey here.
Yeah,
that is why you're here.
Oh, sorry. Actually, I left it in the comment section, but I will say it now too, that last year I went kart crashing, and I ran into two women at the kart, and I was like, well, I'm gonna test a little something, and just mention the shepherd's book. I actually brought it up on my phone and showed them, and they were like, that can't be, because it does say that it comes from battle, but then the stamp says that it's from South Korea, so that can't be JW material. But you can come to our meeting tomorrow and talk to our elder about it, because we see that it seems to be distressing you. Now, what they didn't know, that each and every question of mine was like a spearhead. And I did not say I'm an apostate. I said, I met some witnesses the other day. I got intrigued, so I Googled. I found this. What the hell, guys? So I was like, I'm not going to say I'm an apostate. I'm not going to say I'm an ExJW because they are going to be like, stay away, Satan. They are going to like shut down, leave, all that. Like they were already dicey with me when I started mentioning CSA and stuff. So I was like, I'm not trying my luck with that. And the next day I met with the elder and he was like all kinds of flustered about me having read that book. And it was like, all of this is in the Watchtower literature that we distribute, and this is not distributed to the whole congregation because it's sensitive matters and only like spiritually strong people can handle it and all that. And I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what they say, and it's crazy to me because I read that book and I read your material. I was a JW. I grew up a JW. I know what's in your material, and you changed your material. I left like 9 years ago this year, and I'm looking at the new material like, huh? Like, y'all are not the same stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I know it. In fact, I had an email from a PMO this morning, and I'm not going to mention who he is, but he is in the ASL group, and they are getting the Zoom, because they're getting the ASL meeting zoomed in to them, just like the JWs are getting the stream. And he was on Zoom. Now we know Zoom is getting hacked, and they're putting all kinds of stuff in, and there's hackers all over the place. I've heard it's one of the easiest places to hack. But this PMO, he contacted an elder concerned because when they sign into the Zoom to get the meetings, they have to use their full name. And he only used his first name. And an elder got onto him and said, you have to use your full name. And he doesn't want to because he's concerned that if Zoom is hacked by these people putting in like porn and, videos and all of this, that they will find out who he is. And I told him, I said, this is an incredible violation of the GDPR with people's personal data, especially there in Europe, where they're really strict with this.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if I was a JW having to sign into Zoom, I wouldn't use my real name.
No.
No.
Because they made them sign forms, was it not last year, the year before, where they had to agree that they could use the data and stuff like that? So,
Yep.
I don't know. It just always seems suspicious that they're always after data of who they are, and yeah.
And in reality, you've got to step back a little bit and ask, who are they really collecting it for?
Mm.
That's the question. Because we were in, number one, with technology, when I was in anyway, technology was forbidden almost. I mean, it was like a taboo thing. You cannot have the iPads and all these. Like every Jehovah Witness is like, it's part of their uniform now to have a tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before that, now it seems like, to go to your point, there's just signing their rights away. Because my whole thing is that, and you guys can correct me because I'm still working through your video about the Shepherd of Flock book. And I think it seemed like the language was kind of legalese saying that publishers are no longer members or something like that. But it also said something kind of weird in this app video that I saw, that maybe publishers could also, they have to like surrender their data and all of this other kind of stuff too. And I'm thinking like, okay, why is this what usually when you sign up for app agreements, you have, terms and conditions and licenses and stuff like that, and you have to sign up and agree to them. Why is becoming a member of a church also signing away your data rights? I mean, that don't like one doesn't even go with the other. Like if I was joining a gym and they said, okay, and also we have the right to give away your, information. It's like, okay, well, why would I join this gym? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And, even on jw.org, when you go to start a publisher account, which they're wanting everybody to do now, it even says, if you read the fine print, if you are a minor under 18, your adult parent or guardian has to be right there and help you with it. So they need this permission. So, I mean, it's just a big legalese mess. How do you collect all this data and have them sign up for accounts and still go by the GDPR, grabbing all of this data? So every JW who signs up this account, they have this disclaimer and they have to okay it.
Right. And the thing of the matter is membership, if you're watching, because I know Jehovah Witnesses always be watching our
oh yeah,
y'all out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're watching and you're not, because we have non-Jehovah Witnesses that peek in every now and again, membership in the Jehovah's Witnesses is not only vital to them believing that they will be saved and they won't be killed by fireballs in an impending doom or Armageddon. They don't have a choice to say, like with apps, no, I don't agree with the data thing, so I don't want to do that. They actually believe that it's one and the same. I mean, they don't have a choice to say, no, I don't want to agree with my information being shared, because it's time now with membership in their church or Kingdom Hall, as they say. So membership in the Kingdom Hall also means giving away all your information, people.
Yeah. And that Heather Gilbert comment that is up right now. Oh yeah, I love jw.org. I'm glad they have it because I get more information there and videos there than anywhere else.
Yeah. It's a great source.
Oh yeah. I'm glad they have it there.
I just wanted to reminisce about my childhood as a JW. It was very funny that we were barely allowed to turn on the computer and stuff, and now they are like, let me find it on my tablet for you. Let me find it on your on my tablet, or give me your phone number. Give me your phone number, and I'm like, really now? Is that what you want? Like, is this how you are dealing now? Like, whoa, there.
All right, so you guys, we have entered the part of the stream where we are now taking question and answers for our guests. And we did say in the beginning of the stream that we have Stacey here, but we're not going to have her for long. So, Stacey, did you have any final thoughts or anything you wanted to share with us?
Yeah. So, kind of in line about what you are talking about, it wasn't that long ago when Jehovah's Witnesses were not allowed to use, or was extremely frowned upon to use social media. And I remember very clearly when I was checking YouTube answers for something completely non-related to JW stuff, and I was a JW, very, very devout. I happened to come across a comment of this lady saying that she used to be a JW and she's not anymore, and she's so glad that she got out, and it was a terrible experience. And I only got that far before I just my heart started to race, like beat out of my chest, and I turned my phone off, started praying. It was a terrifying feeling. So even though sometimes I can be a little, I want to maybe abrasive with my activism when it comes to certain particularly elders, I do have a little bit of empathy for ones at the cards and whatnot, because it is terrifying, and they probably will close their ears and not want to hear what you're saying. But when they do wake up, which will be on their own terms, they're going to remember you. And so even though I don't remember any specific thing about this lady, what she said, and that on Yahoo answers. This was like 2000 and I don't know 6 or 7. It stuck with me, and I still remember it. Like it will stick with them. So even if they block it out, and like, so for anyone out there who wants to do activism, who wants to start speaking out, don't be discouraged. Like you said, you've got JWs coming on, you got non-JWs coming on, and they're like, this is pointless. It's not. It's never pointless. There's always somebody who's going to remember what you've done. Even if they don't remember the message, they remember that, something was wrong and someone was speaking out. So
that's exactly why I
do have to go. Thank y'all so much for having me on.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us. Thank you for telling your story and giving us activism tips.
Thank y'all. It was
For all
so
the
great.
newbies. Come back.
Yes,
it's
definitely
so
come
good to see
back
y'all. Bye,
sometime.
Mike and Kim, and bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye. See,
Okay, I will. Thanks.
and
Thanks, guys.
That's exactly why I want to go to Bethel, because I know it's only the JWs taking those free tours. Like no normal like worldly person is gonna be like, of course that's tour Bethel. So I'm like, you know what? I actually want to do that. And just bother them about the child sexual abuse and about all that stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. And I don't know how long it will take for them to throw me out. I don't know if they will.
Girl, they quick now.
if John Cedars could make the whole tour and they didn't throw him out and even gave him a guided tour, hey, I'm sure you'll be welcome with open arms.
I don't recommend going into an assembly by